I didn't go to my brother's wedding. That's probably the least shocking part of this story. What might surprise you, though, is what actually made me decide. It wasn't the fact that he'd humiliated my daughter at his engagement party in front of 60 people and a cheese platter shaped like a swan. It wasn't even the way he laughed when she tried to read her little toast and stumbled over the R in proud, her cheeks burning like she'd been slapped. No, the moment I knew, really knew, I wasn't going was when I opened the invitation and found out she wasn't even listed. No plus one. No and family. Just Mr. Thomas R. Brenner. Like I was single, childless, and untethered from the one person who made me want to be a better man. I stood there in the kitchen of my rented duplex in Poughkeepsie, clutching that stupid envelope like it had just insulted me out loud. My daughter, Katie, was in the next room watching old VHS tapes of Reading Rainbow because, in her words, books don't make fun of you. She didn't even know yet that her uncle had erased her existence from the biggest day of his life. And she never would, not if I had anything to say about it. You see, this wasn't the first time my brother Joel had crossed a line, but it was the first time I didn't step back and let him. I'm 46, a history teacher at a public middle school, and the kind of man who fixes leaking faucets at 10 p.m. and still apologizes for bumping into mannequins. I used to think keeping the peace meant being the better person. I've come to learn it often just means being the quieter target. Joel, on the other hand, has always been the kind of man who makes an entrance, tan in February, too loud laugh, always managing to date women who post inspirational quotes like their personal mantras. And when he got engaged to Callie, sweet, painfully polite Callie with the anxious smile, I wanted to believe this time was different. That maybe she'd temper the worst parts of him. I should have known. At the engagement party, while everyone toasted love and good fortune and the future, Joel decided it was hilarious to call on Katie, my Katie, 9 years old and brave in a pink dress, to say a few words. He set her up like it was a fun surprise, grinning like a man who thought he was being generous. And when she tripped over the word celebration, he started mimicking her under his breath, hand half covering his mouth, face contorted in some exaggerated parody of her speech. People laughed. Not everyone, but enough. I locked eyes with him across the table. He just winked. That night, Katie asked if she could sleep in my bed. She hadn't done that in 2 years. Said her stomach hurt. I didn't ask why. I already knew. So no, I didn't go to the wedding. But here's the twist. Callie left him 3 weeks later. Apparently, my daughter wasn't the only one he belittled. Turns out he made some snide comment about her autistic nephew at a family brunch. Said the kid was weird and probably faking it for attention. Callie's sister heard. So did Callie's mother. She filed for divorce before the thank you cards were even mailed. And now Joel's been calling our parents every other day, saying his life is ruined, that his family abandoned him, that Tom always hated him and poisoned everyone against him. He even tried texting me, said I should have stood by him because blood's thicker than water. I didn't respond. That silence is mine. I earned it. Joel always said I was too sensitive, too serious, too quick to take offense. But I think people only say that when they want to keep hurting you without consequences. It's easier to label someone oversensitive than to admit you're just a jerk. Thing is, I used to believe him. I did. I'd replay arguments in my head, wondering if I had overreacted. Maybe I was too harsh. Maybe I was making things bigger than they needed to be. But then something happened in Syracuse that cracked that illusion wide open, and it had nothing to do with me. It was a month before the wedding at Callie's sister's place. A barbecue, casual. I didn't go, Katie had a cold, and I stayed home. But my cousin Jenny went. And Jenny, God bless her love for chaos, sent me a voicemail that started with, "You won't believe what your brother said this time." She told me Joel made a comment about Callie's nephew, the one who's on the spectrum, during a game of cornhole, of all things. The kid flapped his hands when he got excited, just once, and Joel apparently muttered to someone that he looked like a malfunctioning robot. Said it so loud half the patio heard. Jenny said Callie froze. Her sister turned beet red. And Joel? He laughed. That moment, that exact moment, is what cracked the foundation of his relationship. Not the cheating, not the drinking, not even the flippant remarks about their dog being too needy. It was a kid being himself and Joel being cruel. And that's when I understood something bone deep. It was never about me being too sensitive. It was about him being fundamentally incapable of decency unless it served him. When Jenny told me that story, I went and sat in the parking lot of the Stewarts on Hooker Avenue. Just sat there in my car with a melting milkshake and a numb, tight feeling in my chest. I thought about Katie, her speech therapy, the nights she cried because she couldn't make certain sounds come out right, no matter how hard she tried. And I thought about Joel mocking her at that party, turning her effort, her courage, into a punchline. Not because he didn't understand, but because he thought it was funny. I think that's when my love for him, what little was left, just dried up. Our parents didn't understand why I skipped the wedding. They said I was being dramatic. My mom even called Katie sensitive, like it was some dirty word. I didn't yell, didn't argue, just told her that sometimes protecting your child means standing between them and your own blood. My dad tried to guilt me, told me Joel didn't mean it, said he was just teasing. That's the kind of household we grew up in, where teasing was a catch-all excuse for every wound they didn't want to acknowledge, where I was told to toughen up, and Joel was told he was just being spirited. Well, spirit's one thing, cruelty's another. And you know what? The twist is, I think Callie never really knew what kind of man she married, not until it was too late. And when she finally saw it, she backed out like she was escaping a burning building. I almost respected her for that. Almost. The problem with Joel is he thinks a joke is anything that gets him attention, no matter who it costs. And for most of our lives, he's been rewarded for it. When we were kids growing up in Binghamton, he'd say the most outrageous things at family gatherings, stuff that would get any other kid grounded, and our parents would just laugh and shake their heads. That's just Joel being Joel. They'd say like misbehavior was some sort of brand he'd trademarked. And I was the one told to be understanding, to let it go, to rise above. It's funny. People think sibling rivalry is just some childhood thing you grow out of, but the truth is in some families it evolves. Turns into this unspoken war of expectations, loyalty, and passive-aggressive guilt trips that stretch over decades. Like a permanent Thanksgiving table with the same emotional seating chart year after year. After the wedding fell apart, Joel didn't disappear. No, he leaned in, started telling people that I'd been plotting against him, that I'd turned Callie's family against him, that Katie had overreacted, and I let her cry like some victim. You ever hear someone twist your child's pain into a punchline? I have. It hardens you in ways you don't realize until later. Like when you find yourself deleting old voicemails just to avoid hearing that voice again. 1 week after the wedding that wasn't, Joel sent an email to the whole family. Subject line, "Let's clear the air." It read like a manifesto. Pages of self-pity, backhanded apologies, and weirdly defensive justifications for things no one had even brought up. He even wrote, and I quote, "It was never about hurting Katie. I was just trying to lighten the mood. Kids these days need to toughen up." That was the first time I actually felt something close to hatred toward my brother. Not because of what he said, but because I knew he believed it. Katie's been going to a new therapist, a kind woman who keeps a weighted blanket in her office and lets her bring her sketchbook. She told me last week that sometimes kids remember feelings more than words, that trauma doesn't always come in loud moments, but in quiet ones where they're made to feel invisible. And that's what it was for Katie. It wasn't just that Joel mocked her. It was that a room full of adults watched and let it happen. Laughed even. And I sat there frozen. I'm not proud of that. I didn't jump in right away. I didn't storm across the room or demand an apology. I made excuses in my head. He's just drunk. It's a joke. Don't ruin the night. That voice. That was my upbringing talking. The one that always told me not to be too much. I hate that I hesitated. I hate that she saw me hesitate. Because even if I fixed it later, even if I wrapped her in my arms and told her she was perfect, she still had to walk back to her seat knowing her uncle laughed and her father froze. And I'll carry that for a long, long time. There's this stuffed rabbit Katie's had since she was a toddler. Patchy thing, half the fur worn down, ears floppy from too many nights of being squeezed during nightmares. His name's Banjo. She never goes anywhere overnight without him, not even school trips. After the engagement party, Banjo ended up in a laundry basket. I found him there the next morning, soaking wet and crumpled like she tried to wash something off him that wouldn't come out. She didn't say anything about it, just told me she wasn't hungry, curled up on the couch, and stayed silent for most of the weekend. That was the first time I realized Joel didn't just embarrass her. He took something from her, something small but permanent, the kind of innocence that doesn't come back. And that's what finally undid me. See, it wasn't about the speech. It wasn't even about the laughter. It was the aftermath. The way Katie started avoiding eye contact when she talked. The way she paused before saying certain words, almost like she was rehearsing them in her head before letting them out. The silence after school where there used to be stories. Like someone had closed a curtain inside her and she wasn't sure if it was safe to open it again. That's when I stopped caring what Joel thought, what my parents thought, what anyone thought. My job wasn't to keep peace. It was to build armor around the one person in the world who still looked at me like I was something good. So when Joel sent that final text, the one where he said, You chose sides. Just remember that when she grows up and realizes you isolated her from her family, I didn't even flinch. I just stared at the screen for a while, reread the words, and then deleted it. Because he was wrong. Katie did grow up, at least a little. She grew up the moment she looked around that room full of adults and realized some people don't protect you, even when they should. And she learned that family isn't made by DNA, but by who shows up when it counts. And me? I finally stopped trying to fix what I didn't want fixing. The irony is Joel always had this obsession with legacy. Said he wanted to build something that mattered. But all he really built was a highlight reel of himself. Shiny, shallow, and empty when the camera pans out. Katie asked me once if I missed Uncle Joel. It was a quiet, hesitant question, like she wasn't sure if it was okay to ask. I told her the truth. I missed the idea of the brother I used to think I had, but not the man he turned out to be. And she nodded, just once, like she understood something I hadn't said out loud. The last time Joel and I really spoke, was in the parking lot of a Red Robin. It was 2 weeks before his wedding. I only went because our mom asked me to make peace for the family's sake. That phrase still makes my teeth clench. We sat in his leased SUV, air conditioning blasting, the smell of old fast food in the cup holders. He was scrolling through Instagram when I climbed in. Didn't even look up at first. Just asked if I was still mad about the toast thing. That's what he called it. The toast thing. Like it was a forgotten napkin or a scheduling mix-up. I remember thinking, and I still think this, that he didn't come to apologize. He came to win, to check a box, to walk away feeling like he'd done his part, and anything left was my fault. He launched into some half-hearted speech about how I take things too personally and how Katie's strong. She'll get over it. I don't even remember what I said back. I just remember my hands, clenched, still, not moving an inch. And then he said the thing that finally snapped whatever was left between us. He said, "You know, you act like you're this great protector, but maybe you're just mad the spotlight's not on you anymore." I think I actually laughed. Not because it was funny, because it was pathetic. Joel always needed someone to be beneath him to feel tall. He thought standing up for my daughter was some performance for attention. As if I'd endure her tears, her silence, the panic attacks that came back after a year of quiet, just to make him feel like a villain. That was the moment I knew we weren't brothers anymore. We were just two men with shared history and nothing left to say. When I got home that night, Katie was asleep on the couch with banjo in one hand and a blanket wrapped around her like armor. I sat next to her, careful not to wake her, and just watched her breathe. That small rhythmic proof that I had made the right choice. That she mattered more than his approval ever would. The wedding invitation came in the mail the next day. Cream envelope, gold lettering, formal as hell. No +1, just Mr. Thomas R. Brenner. I tossed it in the trash without opening it. Our mom called later that week, voice brittle with guilt, asking if I'd reconsider. I told her I wouldn't, that I was tired of being asked to show up for people who wouldn't cross the street for me. She said I was being harsh. I said I was being honest. She cried. I didn't. And that was the day Joel stopped being my brother in every way but name. The week after the wedding that never was, everything cracked. Callie didn't just leave. She detonated. I heard through the grapevine, mostly from Aunt May, who has a gift for turning other people's tragedies into afternoon gossip, that she filed for annulment first thing Monday morning. Not divorce. Annulment. Like the whole thing had been a mistake she was legally erasing. Apparently, she gave Joel the papers over brunch in front of her sister and 2 mutual friends. Didn't even wait for coffee. She'd packed her things the night before, left the keys on the counter, and moved back in with her mom in Scroon Lake. No note. No explanations. Just cold, swift action. Joel was blindsided. He thought the worst was over. Thought her family had cooled off after the comment about the nephew. He even told my dad that Callie was just being hormonal. That word, hormonal, stuck in my brain like a sliver. He used it to dismiss her like he dismissed everyone else he couldn't control. I guess he expected her to roll over like our mom always did. But Callie had her own limit, and he found it. The family chat, that curse group thread my parents still use to share old vacation photos and bad minion memes, blew up that night. My mom sent a message with 10 exclamation points. Joel and Callie are splitting up. Please pray for healing. My dad followed it with, these things happen. Let's not assign blame. I didn't respond. Just watched the train wreck in silence. Then Joel texted me directly. Said he hoped I was happy. That this is what happens when you poison people's minds against their own blood. I stared at that message for a long time. Not because it hurt, but because it was so familiar. That's the kind of thing our parents used to say to me every time I called Joel out growing up. Don't stir the pot. Don't divide the family. Don't make trouble. They never realized, or maybe they did and didn't care, that all that so-called unity was just another word for silence. But now, Joel wasn't protected by the old excuses anymore. There was no party to charm, no fiancé to manipulate, no reputation to coast on, just the echo of his own behavior, bouncing back at him with no one left to catch it. He wanted someone to blame. He picked me, but I'd already stopped being the brother who apologized just to keep peace. I was the father of a daughter who deserved more than a family that laughed when she cried. And I wasn't going back. That fall, everything shrank. Thanksgiving used to be chaos. Mismatched chairs, folding tables, paper plates balanced on knees, the kitchen full of noise, and too many cooks elbowing each other over canned cranberries. But that year, it was just me, Katie, and my old friend Marvin from the district office who didn't have anywhere to go. We made lasagna instead of turkey. Katie set the table with little paper name cards she designed herself. One that said Dad, the hero, and one that said Marvin, cool hat. Hers just said Katie, brave. I didn't cry, not really, but something pulled in my chest when I saw that word. Brave. It felt like a verdict. A mirror. A word she chose for herself, not because she felt it, but maybe because she wanted to, or needed to believe someone saw her that way. And I did. God, I did. Joel spent Thanksgiving alone, from what I heard. Callie had flown to Vermont with her mom's side. Our parents invited him to their house, of course, because if there's one thing they can't give up, it's pretending things are normal. He came, apparently. Sat through dinner like a ghost. Didn't say much. Barely touched his food. My mother told me this during a strained phone call a few days later. She said she was worried about him, that he wasn't himself. I nearly laughed. He was himself. That was the problem. She asked again why I couldn't just move past all this. Said Katie was young, and kids bounce back. I told her kids only bounce when someone's there to catch them. Then I asked her, quietly, if she remembered what Joel did. She went silent, then said, he didn't mean to hurt anyone. And that's when I knew she'd never see it. She couldn't. Not because she didn't love Katie, but because seeing it would mean admitting that love isn't enough. That sometimes you have to protect the person who's right, even if it means losing the one who's wrong. We ended that call with stiff goodbyes. Haven't spoken since. Katie didn't ask about the family that year. Didn't ask why we weren't going to Grandma's or where Uncle Joel was. She just kept folding napkins into origami birds and humming under her breath, like she'd already made her peace. And maybe that's what broke my heart most. Not that she was hurt, but that she'd stopped expecting anything better. I think people throw around the word forgiveness like it's aspirin, like it's supposed to fix every emotional bruise if you just swallow enough of it. But no one ever talks about how forgiveness without accountability is just permission for more damage. That's the part my parents never got. Still don't. After the holidays, my dad called me. First time in months. He started talking about the weather, sports, the kind of small talk that only happens when someone's trying not to say the real thing. Then, finally, he cleared his throat and said he wanted me to let it go. Said Joel had been through a lot and wasn't doing great. Said he missed his brother and hoped I'd do the same. I said I did miss my brother, the one I thought I had. The one I imagined when we were kids, before the years sharpened his edges into something mean. My dad went quiet for a while, then said he just didn't want the family to fall apart. But what he meant was he didn't want to see it fall apart, because it already had. When someone shows you who they are, you don't fix them by pretending it didn't happen. You don't heal your daughter by dragging her back into a room where she was hurt. And you sure as hell don't teach her strength by making her watch you grovel at the feet of someone who never earned it. Forgiveness isn't about pretending you weren't hurt. It's about deciding what kind of person you want to be despite the hurt. So no, I didn't forgive Joel. Not in the way he wanted. I didn't hand him back his seat at the table. I didn't clean the slate. But I did let go of the part of me that still thought I could ever make him see it. That part needed to die. The truth is, I don't hate him. Hating someone gives them too much space in your head. It takes energy, and I'd rather spend that on Katie. On watching her slowly come back to herself. Her drawings got bolder that winter. Darker lines, steadier shapes. One night, she showed me a picture of a girl in a forest, holding a glowing lantern. When I asked what it was, she shrugged and said, just someone finding her way back. I looked at that picture for a long time after she went to bed. I think maybe that girl was both of us. It was early spring when I found the box again. We were reorganizing the basement. Katie wanted space for a little art corner, and I figured clearing out old junk would be good for both of us. Dusty shelves, forgotten bins, the smell of cardboard that had absorbed too many seasons. The box had Joel's name on it, sharp letters from another life. Inside were old photo albums, ticket stubs from concerts we went to in high school, a pair of novelty socks he gave me one Christmas with Bigfoot on them. Underneath, I found a letter, unopened, from me to him, postmarked 2012. I'd written it after he got promoted at work, and I couldn't make it to the party. I'd sent it late, awkwardly apologizing for missing the celebration, telling him how proud I was. He never opened it. I sat on the basement floor with that letter in my hand for a long time. Not angry, not sad even, just hollow. Because back then, I wanted to be close. I wanted us to be something better than what we came from. Two boys raised in a house where apologies were considered weaknesses and silence was currency. I thought we could rewrite that script. Thought if I reached out enough, it might teach him how to reach back. But people don't learn that way. Not when they don't want to. Katie came down the stairs, carrying a blanket and a pencil case. Saw me with the box and asked who it belonged to. I told her it was old stuff from someone I used to know. She nodded, sat beside me, and said we could throw it out if it made me sad. And for a second, I considered it. Just tossing the whole thing, cutting the last frayed thread. But I didn't. I packed it back up, taped the lid shut, and slid it into the far corner behind the water heater. Not because I want to keep it, but because letting go doesn't always mean burning things down. Sometimes it just means knowing where to put them so they don't take up space you still need for yourself. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay awake thinking about that letter, about all the things we give people that they never open. Katie had a part in the spring play that year. Nothing big, just a narrator role, a few lines at the start and the end. But she practiced every night for weeks. Whispered into her pillow, repeated phrases under her breath during car rides, read out loud to the dog. I didn't push her. I didn't tell her she had to do it. She wanted to. That night, I sat in the third row of the middle school auditorium, knees jammed against the seat in front of me, the smell of cafeteria pizza still lingering in the air from the bake sale outside. I watched her walk to the microphone in her blue cardigan, her hair pinned back with a silver clip she picked out herself. And I held my breath. She paused, took one look at the crowd, then spoke. Not a stumble, not a hesitation. Her voice didn't shake. It was clear and steady, every syllable falling into place like it had always belonged to her. And right there, in that moment, I felt something in my chest crack open. Not grief, not pride even, relief. Like I'd been holding my breath for a year without knowing, and suddenly my lungs worked again. When she finished, she looked toward the crowd, eyes scanning the rows. Not for applause, not for praise. Just looking. And I swear, for half a second, she searched for someone who wasn't there. And I hated Joel all over again. Because no matter how far we'd come, no matter how strong she grew, he'd left a mark. A ghost in the seats. An absence that still tugged at her. But then her eyes landed on me. And she smiled. Not one of those shy little kid smiles. A full one, crooked, confident, a little defiant. Like she knew exactly what she'd done. Like she knew she was enough. I clapped until my hands hurt. Not for the play. For her. For every second she spent crawling back from that tiny moment that tried to make her small. And I realized something I hadn't been ready to admit until then. She didn't need an apology from him. She needed consistency from me. And I think maybe she was getting it. Last week, I got a letter in the mail with no return address. Handwritten. Familiar handwriting, though it had stiffened since the last time I saw it. It was from Joel. Just a single page. No epalagi. No reflection. Just an update. That he was moving to Arizona for a job. That he didn't expect anything, but thought I should know. Said he might be getting remarried. Said he hoped Katie was doing well. That was it. No phone number. No email. No invitation to respond. I sat with that letter for a long time. Read it twice. Then put it in the junk drawer with expired coupons and spare batteries. Because I didn't feel angry. I felt nothing. And maybe that's the real ending. Not reconciliation. Not revenge. Not the moment where someone realizes what they've done and comes crawling back. Just quiet. The silence that comes when a wound finally closes, even if the scar still itches now and then. Katie's finishing middle school next month. She's taller than her classmates now, always doodling in the margins of her homework, always humming something soft and half-remembered. Her stutter's nearly gone, but she still slows down when she gets nervous. She doesn't hide it, doesn't flinch when it happens, just breathes through it and keeps going. She's tougher than I ever was. Sometimes I catch myself wondering what kind of person she'll grow into. If she'll remember that year with sharp edges or soft focus. If she'll carry it like a weight or like armor. I hope it's the latter. I hope she never forgets, but never lets it define her either. And me? I'm just trying to be steady. Not perfect, not loud, just there. The man who showed up when it mattered, even if it took him longer than it should have. I don't miss Joel anymore, but I do miss the version of me that still thought we could fix it. That man was naive. but he loved hard. I hope Katie sees that version when she looks at me. The other day, she left a drawing on the fridge. It was two people, a girl with a flashlight and a man with a map. They were standing at the edge of a cliff, looking out at a forest below. At the bottom, she'd written one line. We didn't get lost. We just had to start over. And I think that says everything.